Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver James Washington has requested a trade, so we're going to be breaking down that story, and we're going to get into 5 destinations for Washington if he is actually indeed traded. Mitchell Renz here from Chat Sports, ready to walk you through the latest news and rumors going around the Steelers, going around the NFL. Here was the tweet from Adam Schefter that happened earlier today, August 6th at 11:33 a.m. Steelers wide receiver James Washington, a former 2018 second-round pick, has approached the Steelers and requested a trade based on his limited playing time last season and so far this preseason, per source. So, when I first saw this tweet, I was like, all right, I'm going to take a deep dive, try to figure out some of the teams that could be potentially interested in the former Oklahoma State product. Now, definitely his role has diminished with Claypool, with Diontae Johnson, and obviously even with them deciding to bring back JuJu Smith-Schuster on that one-year rule. But besides 2018, he really hasn't put up the big-time numbers. Now, I will also give him this credit. In 2019, JuJu battled some injuries. Obviously, it was the Antonio Brown shit show of a year as well. So, you had a lot of different factors working in the benefit of Washington, where he had 44 grabs, 735 yards, 16.7 yards per catch, and 3 touchdowns. What really hurt some of his numbers last season were not only the wide receivers above him, but let's face it, it was also the diminishing Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, he had 30 catches last season, 392 yards, 5 touchdowns, and when you look at him from a wide receiver standpoint, he's built kind of funny. 5'11", 213. He's not going to beat you with speed. He's not going to beat you with great hands. The one ability that Washington has always had is just being very physical and winning a lot of those 50-50 balls. Plus, his concentration is very impressive. So what I want you guys to do here is take a guess, because I'm going to do my best educated guess as well and trying to figure out if and where James Washington is ultimately going to get traded if the Pittsburgh Steelers do decide to move on from him. So go down in the comments section right now and take a guess. Where will Washington play in 2021? I got 5 teams coming up here. Hopefully we agree. So here right now as we look is the Steelers wide receiver depth chart, and it's a pretty solid one, no doubt about it. JuJu Smith-Schuster, a great young receiver. Chase Claypool, I absolutely love this kid coming out of Notre Dame. Diontae Johnson, and then there sits James Washington. The first player we're going to talk about, though, is Claypool, who I could actually probably make the argument was the wide receiver 1 last season on this team, and he was a rookie. 62 grabs, 873 yards, 9 touchdowns, only 23 years old. He's got the size, 6'4", 238. My NFL comp when he was actually coming out of college was Evan Ingram. I was actually curious whether or not he was going to play tight end or wide receiver. Then they had Diontae Johnson, who, again, I can make the argument, was the wide receiver 1 last season for Pittsburgh, where he had 88 grabs, 923 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Those 2 young players were so good that we didn't even know if JuJu Smith-Schuster was going to come back. Hell, there was a time where JuJu had 111 catches, had more yards than somebody like Antonio Brown, who was at that time, I'd say, the best receiver in the NFL. Maybe we got to give Big Ben a little bit more credit than what he deserves. But what I thought was pretty interesting was Dez Bryant. He tweeted out yesterday, if you were a team and want a top-tier wide receiver, trade for James Washington, thank me later. I mean, there's 2 parts to this. One, Dez and James are friends, plus both of these players went at Oklahoma State, so I think they're just trying to have each other's back. So the question I'm going to ask you guys is this. If Dez is out there tweeting it, my man, producer Jeremy behind the scenes is like, do you think he could be a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2? If Dez thinks he could, maybe an NFL team does. So go down in the comments section and let me know. I want you to type Y for yes, or I want you to type N for no. Can Washington be a 1 or 2 on a team? If you're trying to be the number 1 person in your girl's life, what you need to do is go to Manscaped. Manscaped.com/chat. 20% off and free shipping on the best male grooming products out there. I absolutely love the Lawnmower 4.0. Hell, it's such a good male grooming tool. I bet you could literally just trim up the entire Heinz field. Usually this is $89.99, but y'all, we're hooking you up with an awesome deal. You can get it for $71.99. Again, that is 20% off. But what makes this tool amazing is the light at the end of it. You can get into some of those hard-to-reach places. Let's just say your pubes are like Steel City. You can get rid of them. I guarantee it's going to cut right through this stuff here. Plus, the battery life on it is very impressive, and you can actually see how long the battery is going to last. How many people out there have ever been shaved, and you're just like, oh, shit, the battery's dead. And then you're looking like Harrison Graham with half a shaven face. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out our NBA coverage. But also, changeable blades. If you use the same blades on your face as you're using for your Famunda cheese down there, that's disgusting. I don't want none of that in my life. So all we're trying to do is hook you up with an awesome product, plus maybe you make your girlfriend a little bit happy too, or wife. I don't know. If you're single, then here, you can meet a bunch of people. Manscaped.com/chat. Again, y'all, it is 20% off and free shipping on the best male grooming products out there. So coming up now, we're going to get into the 5 trade destinations for Washington. I tried to think about which 5 teams would be the most inclined to go out and trade for the receiver. Now, these aren't ranked in any specific order, but I am going to start here with the New England Patriots. N'Keal Harry, another player who has verbally said he's not really happy right now. So what happens if New England decides to move on from their former first-round pick back in 2019? Could this potentially free up a spot? Also, I actually think James Washington and his ability to run and be a tougher receiver, if you will, fits in perfectly with what either Cam Newton or what Mac Jones is going to bring to the table. Plus, he just kind of seems like this nitty-gritty chip-on-a-shoulder receiver that would fit great with Bill Belichick. Now, if you guys are looking for the best videos on YouTube, y'all, you're in the right place. Plus, it's 100% free. So what I want you to do is look underneath that video. You see that subscribe button? It's red. If you're colorblind, it's going to be light gray, Dad. So what I want you to do is click that sub button, turn on those notifications. That way, if James Washington is traded, we got you covered right here. All right, the next team we're going to get into here is the Kansas City Chiefs, and they got 2 pretty solid top 2 guys. I love me some Tyreek Hill, and when I kind of say another top guy, I'm talking about the tight end Travis Kelce. But McCall Hardman, love the speed, but he's been pretty inconsistent. Demarcus Robinson, inconsistent. Byron Pringle, I like the product coming out of Kansas State, but again, you have a lot of question marks, and if you're looking to go out and make an exclamation point, maybe it's actually going out and trading for a player like James Washington that could help you in a very competitive AFC. Now, next team coming up here is the Philadelphia Eagles. There's been a lot of drama around this team the entire offseason, but the most recent story is actually around first-round draft pick Devonta Smith, who is battling a little bit of a knee injury. And if you're worried about his knee injury, do you go out and get Washington to pair him with Jalen Reagor, Ward, Fulgham, who actually had a pretty decent season? I like Quez Watkins a lot. He was one of my favorite players actually coming out of the draft in terms of a sleeper. But again, you're trying to put as much talent as humanly possible around Jalen Hurts, and with the injury to Devonta Smith, it's just a team to keep in mind. Next team coming up here, it's the Atlanta Falcons, and the biggest reason why I'm putting the Falcons on this list as potential trade teams to go out and get Washington, you don't have Julio Jones anymore. You have Calvin Ridley, who's an up-and-coming receiver, arguably a top 10 guy. But then again, you got a lot of question marks with Gage and then Zacchaeus. Like, no disrespect to those players there. I'm actually not that high on James Washington, but he'd be the second best receiver on this team. And if that's an opportunity for him and his agent that he thinks that, hey, I can be that wide receiver too with Matt Ryan, it's something to at least think about. Next team, and probably the last team coming up here. Actually, no, I just remembered I got some notable mentions as well. The New Orleans Saints. If you've been following the Saints at training camp, the coaching staff is very worried about their wide receiver play. Not only are you going to be without Michael Thomas probably that first month of the season, Traquan Smith out of UCF, he's also been struggling. So that basically means, and it's yes when I tell you this, Callaway right now has been the number 1 receiver. Also, Harris has stepped up here and there. They also really like what they're getting out of McCleskey. But those 3 names are guys that I guarantee most people here are like, who the hell is that? Imagine that being your wide receiver 1. James Washington might be the wide receiver 1 here if they go out and trade for him the first week of the season. Now, here are some other teams that didn't quite make my top 5, but I at least thought could be mentioned. The Seahawks have been looking for a wide receiver 3 since moving on from David Moore. The Chicago Bears, are they going to keep Allen Robinson in the long term? Could be a situation there. The 49ers have been linked to a lot of receivers as well, as is the Lions. The Lions have been looking for a slot receiver, and then the Indianapolis Colts. I know Carson Wentz is banged up, but if you're trying to add more firepower to that offense, be that wide receiver 3 next to T.Y. Hilton, and then next to Pittman, could be a pretty good option. So if y'all made it this far in the video, just know that I appreciate you. We're always trying to interact with you guys as much as humanly possible. And if you have any questions, if there's another team that you're like, dude, how the hell did this random guy forget about this team right here? You can always hit me up on IG. My DMs are open. Mitchell Renz 365. Everyone have an awesome Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Let me know down in the comments what you're sipping on this weekend.